Warriors around, don't get caught in the mosh pit. Fuel to the fire, ain't nobody can stop it. Trouble in my city, but you know I'm across it. Got a 40 on my hip and I'm liable to spark it. Throw down these hits, my click is indivisible. I aim, you duck, I squeeze, now you invisible. I'm not afraid of getting physical. All these different chemicals are fogging up my visuals. Bloods on my hands, got slugs on my gunners. Yo, we notorious, we ain't no runners. Bloods on my hands, got slugs on my gunners. Yo, we some warriors, they ain't called gunners. Bloods on my hands, got slugs on my gunners. Bloods on my hands, got slugs on my gunners. Put on my strap, put on the beat, put on the map, put on my team. Take out every motherfucker in between, know what I mean? Better myself, better my aim, better my rap, better my name. Killing rappers on my hang, I'm by their chains for the fame. Never thought I would, and now I'm running. You don't wanna follow me, now I'm fucking funny.
What's going on? What's going on? Good evening and welcome to Steve the Kidney Nurse broadcast. Thank you for joining me. I'm Steve Belcher. Tonight, we have an awesome show for you. We're going to be talking about kidney disease and healthy diet. And who but better to help me talk about this topic is none other than kidney warrior David Pollack. Dave is a transplanted warrior who's had his transplant for 9.5 years. He was on dialysis 4.5 years. Right outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Dave has decided to turn his passion of being a chef into helping kidney warriors. Dave is on the Eat This TV network, which is on Roku. His show, Cooking Without Kidneys, just signed on for 12 episodes. So we're going to hear from Dave about his journey with kidney disease, his transplant, his cooking show, eating healthy and kidney disease. So without further ado, let me give Dave the VIP intro and bring him on. Here we go. Hey, Dave, how you doing, man?
Doing good, Steve. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. Thank you for coming on the broadcast, taking time out of your busy schedule of cooking. I really appreciate you. We finally had the opportunity to connect and bring you on. So again, thank you, my friend, for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being here.
So Dave, let's just start from the beginning. How did your life become involved with kidney disease?
So when I got into my first marriage, my ex-wife, she actually wanted me to go get blood work done, and I was very much one of those people that didn't want to get stuck with needles, didn't want to go to the doctor, didn't want to do anything of that sort. And she actually kept pushing, and finally I went to go get the blood work done. The doctor saw something off, recommended me to somebody else. They did more testing and found out I had kidney failure. I was asymptomatic, so didn't have a clue.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that I was already stage 5 at that point. But once we found out what was going on, I managed to stave off dialysis for a few years, about 6 or 7 years, just in how I ate, what I ate. And then when I started dialysis and started to go through that, just having to change it completely again. You know, it's like prior to dialysis, it was low protein, lots of vegetables, no red meats, very much fish and chicken was it, and cutting down on the carbs. But when I started dialysis, that's when everything kind of flipped. The machine takes everything out, not just the good, not just the bad, but all the good stuff too. So I ate increased the amount of protein I was taking in massively. I had also had to cut out potatoes, tomatoes, citrus. I couldn't have collards anymore. I couldn't have plantains. Um, High phosphorus items. I had to limit the amount of chocolate I was eating, things of that nature. And of course, I had to cut out a lot of the salt. So let's just say there was a learning curve, and caused a lot of issue with that. So
let me ask you, Dave. Let's go back to when you got diagnosed. Did they tell you what caused your kidney disease?
So by the time I found out I had kidney failure, they attributed it to some sort of uric reflux. So essentially, my kidneys were so shrunken and scarred and damaged that they didn't even want to do a biopsy on them because there just wasn't enough left.
So you didn't have diabetes, hypertension, nothing, none of that?
No, I was never diabetic. The only time I hit hypertension was about 6 months prior to dialysis. Yeah, no, didn't have any of that.
Okay, so Dave, when you started dialysis, you were already a chef?
Yeah, so I've been cooking since I've been 14 years old. I'm a Johnson Wales grad.
Wow.
And, worked at a lot of great restaurants with a lot of great people. Cuba Libre up here in Philadelphia, when they first opened, I was a saucier there. I learned a lot there. I had the pleasure, while I was on dialysis, I try to stay in the restaurant industry as it is, as brutal as it is. And pulling 60 hours a week. And I worked for a short time for Jose Garces, So it was interesting because I would burn out of jobs just so quick. Just because even though I had the knowledge, my body would just burn out just from being on the machine 3 times a week.
Wow. And so tell us, when you was going through treatment, tell us some of the challenges that you encountered doing dialysis. Now, were you doing home dialysis or did you go in center for your whole 4 years?
No, I was outpatient for the entire time. I did not see a point in having a setup here in our condo, especially if I still have to pay for a seat. Because one of the things that happens is you're still paying for a seat at dialysis, even though you're doing dialysis at home. So there's still that cost there. So it just didn't make sense to me. And plus, if something went wrong, I would rather be someplace where there were people who could handle it right then and there and not have to wait for an ambulance or anything of that nature.
Tell us some of the challenges that you experienced going in center.
So in center, some of the challenges, first off, was you're sitting there on a machine for 4 hours. I actually had them cut my time down because of how horrible I felt after the 4 hours. No, I had to cut down to about 3.5 hours at most. But really, it was kind of like my blood pressure actually dropped. When I started on dialysis, my blood pressure was so low that they couldn't pull any of the excess fluid off. So, the issue that I had was consistently passing out, going under. The first time it happened, I didn't even realize that it happened, and I got told afterwards that the tech wasn't paying attention and my blood pressure dropped to 50/20.
Whoa, wait a minute. Go back. You said something very, very important that I advocate a lot. You said the tech wasn't paying attention. And I'm not going to beat that with it, beat it like a dead horse, but how important is that to you as a patient that staff is paying attention to your treatment?
It's quite important, especially when you're new on the machine. The fact is that tech was there to make sure that my blood pressure didn't go down, drop to a point where it was dangerous. I was in the middle of a conversation and I just went out, and when I woke up, The doctor was there, the nurse was there, just because my blood pressure dropped that low that they essentially were like, yeah, we weren't sure how if just pushing fluid would have been enough. So,
Right.
That was one of those situations of.
No, I understand. Trust me, I worked in the facility as a charge nurse, and I used to have to get on some technicians for not staying in the bay. We call them bays, or the area where they were assigned to watch the patients. They may be somewhere else, a group of staff huddling together, talking, maybe on their phones. But nevertheless, so Dave, let's fast forward a little bit. Can you take us back to the day you found out you were getting a transplant?
So I had lucky number 7. I had 6 calls prior. This was lucky number 7.
Wow.
I'm at work.
6 calls.
Yeah, I had 6 calls. The fact is that when you're on the list, if you are taking care of yourself, I was going to the gym, I was working full time, I didn't smoke, I didn't drink, I was trying to eat the best I could, and that's how I was able to get a kidney in 4.5 years with that AB neg blood type.
Because you mean 4.5 years after you got on the list?
Yep.
Okay, that's not bad, man.
It actually took me 5 years to get the kidney because I went on a year prior to going on dialysis. Okay. I had all the testing done and everything. Because I knew ahead of time. We started lining everything up ahead of time. Me and my wife, made sure that we had everything lined up for it, so that way there was no issue there.
So now, was it a living donor or non-living donor?
No, I have a cadaver kidney.
Okay. Awesome. So tell us a day when you got the call. Where were you at? What were you doing?
I was at work. I was working for Whole Foods because I physically couldn't keep up in restaurants, so I went to the corporate side of life. Okay. And I was getting everything set up for the day, and all of a sudden my phone rang, and they're just like, "Okay, well, we have a kidney for you." I'm like, "That's great." Okay, what does that mean? They're like, "Well, you have to be here by 10. Okay, I walked up to my boss. I was like, "Got a kidney. I'm out." Drove home. First thing I did when I got home was I shaved my chest. Because when you have hair and those tacks are on, that hurts coming off.
Oh, the leads, the EKG leads.
But then when the car went down there, I went through my last dialysis session. My wife took a picture of me on my last dialysis session there. Yes, Shell, because I'm hairy. And then I went in and I got the kidney, and 5 days later I was at my mother's house. It was really kind of funny because everyone's like, "Oh, you got a kidney, let me come over and visit," and we're just like, no, because they had just killed off my entire immune system, and they were just letting it come back slowly but surely.
Wow.
Once you get an organ like that, you're really susceptible the first 3 months to everything.
Sure. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And thank God it wasn't during the time now when we got this pandemic going on.
I mean, in some ways, you'd be stuck in the house in any case. But yeah, with the pandemic and the whole 9 yards, I wouldn't want to see anyone catch it. When they get a kidney, that would be devastating.
Absolutely. Now, Dave, let's kind of shift gears here. What gave you the idea? I mean, you're already a chef and you're cooking, but at what point was that aha moment that you said, "Oh, I need to turn this being a chef into something that's going to help kidney warriors like myself"?
So when I was on dialysis, I sat there, and it was most of the time I would just sleep while I was on the machine. But there was this one day I just couldn't sleep. I was watching the dietitian and the nutritionist walking around and talking to each patient and handing them out the Thanksgiving recipes. And every patient did the same thing. They grabbed the recipe, they looked at it, they talked for 2 seconds, said, "Okay, we'll test that out. Thank you," and then shake their head and put it into a bag next to it.
I know. That's very familiar. I'm very
Yeah.
familiar with that.
So what popped in my head was, why don't we give people a chance not just to taste it, but to see how it's prepared, to see what it's supposed to smell like, to hear the sounds of a knife going, and to see actually people doing the recipes that we're handing them. So it popped in my head, and I was sitting there. I was talking. I'll never forget. I'm talking to the tech, and she looks at me and she's just like, "So, you have the smirk. What's up?" And I'm just like, "I'm going to start a show. I'm going to start a nonprofit. It's going to be called Cooking Without Kidneys." And they're like, "Well, that's a nifty name." Like, well, if you're on dialysis, you don't have kidneys, so it just was something I've been holding on to from there. Because the fact is, the sensory is so important. And even though they had people outside of the dialysis center giving people samples as they were leaving, you just got your body beat up for 3.5, 4 hours, attached to a machine. You don't want to taste anything. Most of the time, you just want to go to sleep. So
Okay.
yeah, you may smell food and whatnot. 9 times out of 10, you're not. It doesn't hit. It just doesn't hit. So my goal is to make it something where there's demos and competitions, vendors, people there to actually talk to and work through some of the dietetic stuff. Like if you have questions about the recipes that are being demoed, being able to talk to the chef who's making it, go, "How did you come up with this?"
Uh-huh.
My first show, one of my favorite things is a really good beef bolognese. You could
I'm
use
sorry.
turkey.
Repeat that on your first show.
My first show, what I made was one of my favorite items. It's a beef bolognese. Okay, tomatoes you can't eat. I did it with roasted peppers instead, and I used Bragg's liquid amino. Um, so actually, Jared, that's going to be this weekend. Who has already tasted some of the roast red pepper biscuit in the video? So what I made, the bolognese I made in the video, I'm actually going to be doing live on Saturday at PhilCon at the Crown Plaza in Cherry Hill.
All right. Is that in Philadelphia?
That's it. Well, it's over in Jersey in Cherry Hill. It's about
Okay, got
20
you.
minutes away, right off 38.
Okay. Okay. Now, Dave, let me ask you.
Yeah.
Excuse me. What separates cooking without kidneys from the rest of the chefs that just cook? What stands out? What stands you out from the rest?
So the whole idea is that what I'm doing to actually stand out from the crowd with cooking without kidneys is the fact that everything that I make is friendly for someone who's on dialysis specific. You could talk about a pre-dialysis diet of being vegan, vegetarian, being pescatarian, eating fish and whatnot. But really, when you're on dialysis, you mess up one day, you may not wake up the next.
Mm.
Your kidneys can't get rid of any of that heavy toxins. So the whole idea is to really give people a chance to thrive and eat things that they love. Like Tamika Griffin. She's saying that I try very hard not to eat tomatoes. Yeah, that's true. I tried very hard not to eat tomatoes also, but I also figured out what I could do different. So that way I could still have the flavors I love and be able to make it safe that I could eat it and eat it on a regular basis.
Wow, wow. And before we go on, I just like to acknowledge everyone watching. Thank you, especially James Fabian, aka Dad Vice TV. Um, and Dave, you may want to reach out to James to see if he has any availability to bring you on and interview you. He has a huge, huge following on YouTube, over 145,000 subscribers. So that's that's one guy that you definitely want to reach out to have as your friend or an ally. So okay, that's great, man. That you cook specifically for patients on dialysis. Now let me ask you, with that being said, do you see cooking without kidneys kind of evolving to other health conditions, like maybe a cardiac diet, diabetic diet, these different medical diets that's out there that some patients may find bland? Do you have any aspirations on venturing out into other diets?
So it's really
Yeah.
interesting that you actually bring that up, because one of my friends, he's actually going through liver failure, and the conversation that we had the other day was, he's like, you should do cooking without livers. I'm like, that could be next on the list. Right now, I want to start with what I know before venturing out and going, okay, now we're going to take this in a whole other direction. Cooking without kidneys is going to, the goal is that it gets so large that we have an entire dietetics department that is actually not just running competitions, running demos, but is also there as a consultant for people who just want to talk about the recipes or are looking for something different.
Mm-hmm.
We're also planning on having restaurants at some point in time in those buildings, so that way everything that's served there is kidney friendly. You're not going to
Whoa,
find
whoa, whoa,
food.
whoa! Back that up again. So you're thinking about opening up a a restaurant specifically catered toward kidney patients?
Yes, but all proceeds from that go to the nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
whole idea is that I really want to build a nonprofit that has that balance with the finance coming in and the help going out. Being
Okay.
able to sit there and have like an event that normally people would be charging 50, 100, 150, $200 for, and having it be like 20, 30 bucks, because there's enough finance coming in to supplement everything else.
Yeah, and Dad Vice TV said he think that would work. That kidney friendly restaurant, because anyone can eat there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, man. That definitely sounds like a great idea. I'm not sure if one has already been established, but man, it would be great if it wasn't. You'd be the first one to establish a kidney friendly restaurant, and then check this out. Maybe as time goes on, franchise it or just open, up in each state or something like
Well,
that.
as I said, the money from the restaurants are going to go towards cooking without kidneys. So if it'll be one of those deals where we're going to start at our hub, which is going to be right here in Philadelphia, and then we're going to take that to different cities, different states. So as things grow, as things progress, as we get larger, then we're going to start to see a hub end up in Chicago, a hub end up down in Houston, Texas, out in California. And the goal at the end of the day is to not just, because right now for the show, even I'm looking for sponsors. I reached out to the National Kidney Foundation. I reached out to Fresenius Dialysis Unit. And if anyone has anybody that would be interested in supporting the show, we're still looking for some sponsors for that. So if
Sure,
anybody's interested,
absolutely.
reach out to me afterwards.
Okay. Now, let's talk about cooking without kidneys. When did that concept come about, and when did you actually start?
So it came about probably 2010, 2011. I actually started a blog about it in 2014, which did for a couple of months. And then I got a phone call from a friend of mine saying that 1 week, three that I was on dialysis with for almost the entire time I was on the machine, they all passed right around the same time. So for me, that just hit me so hard that I stopped working on it when I should have just pushed through. And then I picked it back up when the pandemic hit. I got the trademark. I have, when the pandemic hit, I trademarked Cooking Without Kidneys. I got all the articles on incorporation, all that stuff done and out of the way. So now I can work on really continuing to build the recipe for
Okay. Now we understand that you're on the Eat This TV network, which is on Roku.
Yep.
Congratulations, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Seriously, because just being on that, and a lot of people have Roku, which is part of that whole cable package, and Netflix, that whole Fire Stick. Now you're able to reach out to so many kidney warriors who may watch that show. And so we want to put the name of that show up here as well, so people can find it. You let them know the days and they can watch it. But how did that opportunity come about? Being on a network such as Eat This TV network?
Part of it I think was just dumb luck. Part of it I think was winning a competition. My wife and I are part of a company, and one of the things that they had a competition using the products. Okay, so I made a chocolate tiramisu. I used 3 of the products in there. I used a protein shake, the coffee, and our hot chocolate. All make a chocolate tiramisu. And I won the contest. And then 4 days later, I get an email from Eat This TV from Todd Main. So I think one just kind of led to the other.
That's awesome, man. Wow.
Yeah, I got very lucky. Hey,
okay.
Ben.
And so you got that, and then that originally started off as how many pilots?
So it's just the one pilot, just a test pilot to see how it does over the course of the week. We were getting approximately 4,400 views a day. And now that we're going to start growing the show, we are going to actually, I'm expecting that number to grow double, triple, quadruple.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when you do break out, you definitely got to come back on here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no doubt. I'll come back on here. Definitely there's a few other people that I've talked to that are like, you got to come back on my show, or you got to come back and work with me. One of the things that I'm planning on, and I'll see if I'm planning on doing, is potentially having friends of mine who are also chefs come on, and we'll talk about their favorite dishes. So they get to make their favorite, and I get to make sure that it's safe for someone who's on dialysis.
Sure. Now, Dave, what, by this starting to happen for you, getting this kind of like this network deal, what have you seen to be some of the challenges in cooking on TV, or preparing dishes live? What are some of those challenges, especially dishes that are specifically designed for patients with kidney disease?
So it's just like you would do with any other demo, any other. It's all about your setup. It's all about how you set yourself up for success. You know, I would not have been able to do the pilot if I didn't pre-prep most of the food ahead of time, making sure things were diced, the whole 9 yards. Just because, you know, it's 3 items and it has to narrow down to a half-hour show. You know, when you're doing a live demo, little different. It's a little different. You have a little bit more time that you can play with, getting some of the dicing done and whatnot. You don't have to necessarily do everything in one location. Pack it up, travel with it. You can have everything set and ready to go, bring it there, and do some of the prep in front, so people can actually see the knife skills, see how you're going to dice it on you. And, you know, just maybe pick up something else other than
watching you prepare the food,
exactly.
as far as
Just
with the seasoning and stuff like that.
Yeah, actually have the opportunity to just see how the knife work is actually done and be able to ask questions on that too. Because cooking is not just putting things into a pot. You know, there's also a portion of it that is really all about the knife skills, and cutting, dicing, and doing things of that nature.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because you mentioned that a lot about dicing and cutting. And I mean, how important is that to cooking? I mean, especially for someone who say may not have cooking skills and they watch you and they want to prepare the food, but they are not sharp with the dicing.
So, because I've been doing it for 30 years, when you use how you dice something, how you cut something affects how it cooks. Okay, so if all of a sudden you take 5 onions and you just chop them up, you know, any which way, and they're all different sizes, they're not going to cook evenly. Some of the water may be coming out of them. You know, I also have a Facebook page, Cooking Without Kidneys, that people can look at too.
Right.
Just want to throw that out there.
Sure, absolutely. You said Cooking Without Kidneys Facebook page.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And Cooking Without Kidneys Facebook, cookingwithoutkidneys.wordpress.com is my WordPress page, which I'm going to update. I'm going to update this probably tomorrow night with the recipes that I did on the first show, and then I'll update all the others from there.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of recipes, Dave, is there any plans in the work for a Cooking Without Kidneys cookbook?
So that's the whole reason behind the blog. You know, I really like the idea because most recipes, if you really want a recipe, you can look it up online nowadays. You know, just putting it out there for people to be able to go take a look, go to cookingwithoutkidneys.wordpress.com and be able to see, you know, hey, he's got a mushroom soup here, but what mushrooms do you use? Because white mushrooms are high in potassium. And you'll find out I use creminias and shiitakes. You know,
you use what?
Cremini and shiitake.
Okay.
Blanch them, pan fry them, you know, the whole 9 yards. As far as a physical cookbook, the plan is that every event that we do, the recipes of the day, you'll get a pamphlet with those, and we may do a physical cookbook and have it be, you know, not a super expensive.
Wow.
And just have it be like the build up from the very beginning to where we are now.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So let me ask you, when you're taping these shows, how long does it take for you to do one episode?
One episode is about 4 hours.
Really?
Yes. You know, they have to make sure they get all the camera angles, all the shots right. Make sure nothing has to get retaken, and you know, you essentially want to make sure you have everything in order. You know, it takes about 4 hours to actually do the shoot, but in actuality, everyone will see is that half hour.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So let me ask you: when you cook on the show, do you eat your own meals?
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah. A chef who won't eat his own food is not a chef I'd ever want to cook with or try. You know, I mean, you are your best guinea pig. You have to make sure that what you're serving is something that people will want to eat.
Sure, sure. Now, do you have an audience that's watching you when you're taping?
No, it's not like it's not that. It's a close set.
Okay.
It's a close set. It's not an open set. Especially
Wow.
in this day and age with COVID, and what's been
Sure.
going on with it. A lot of people are a lot more cautious about things of that nature nowadays. So we're just kind of we're just doing limited people and limited people there.
Michelle Radcliffe says she watched your pilot at midnight and went to bed starving.
Yes, she had some very not so pleasant words for me the next day, and she was just like, "You did too well."
Cool,
She
man.
really,
That's awesome.
just the fact that the fact that I'm able to present it in a way that's relatable, that's a big deal right there. And that's, for me, that was the one thing that was missing when I was on dialysis.
Yeah, man. That's awesome that
relatability.
you were able to turn something that most people kind of cringe at into something really helpful that can impact many people. Because again, when I was working, full time in the industry, just like you said, the dietitian comes around and hands out a paper, especially around the holidays, with some type of recipe on it, and just hand in. The person may put it in that blue bag that Davita gives them, or they may throw it in the trash can, or it may end up on the floor. And with some patients, they may live by themselves and may not be able to prepare that meal. They
Yep.
may have some type of challenges, sight challenge. Maybe they got diabetes or some type of neuropathy in their hands and stuff, where they can't hold the pots and pans or do the dicing like you was talking about.
So one of the things that's in the works down the road, is actually having there be like an at-home delivery for people who are on dialysis, so that way they can have the meal delivered to them, and all they have to do is put it in the oven, and cook it. Kind of like
Man,
a Blue
that's
Apron
awesome,
or
bro.
something like that. So yeah, you brought that up. I have a multifaceted plan as to how I want to roll it out, and at the end of the day, it's still a nonprofit.
Man, that's awesome. That's awesome.
The
Absolutely.
entire goal is to just cut down on the amount of people who have the heart issues from potassium or breaking bones because of the amount of phosphorus. Really just kind of, cut down the issues that shouldn't be or don't have to be.
Right. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I mean, it's all the way around: calcium, phosphorus, potassium,
Yep.
the glucose. Let me ask you, if someone was watching this show and they were on dialysis or they had kidney disease, and they cooked, or that was one of their hobbies, to cook, and they wanted to, and they seen you, they watching this show and seeing what you're doing, they wanted to get started. What advice, suggestions would you have for them in order to break into this field?
If they just wanted to start cooking, if they were on dialysis, are you talking about if they wanted to go cooking professionally, or just
kind of do what you're doing, help patients, and just doing what you're doing, as far as building up a company and and just helping other kidney warriors with a healthy diet?
I would definitely say, reach out. Let's create a conversation. How can I help you get started? I'm one of those people that I really, really, really do not believe in leading from behind. I'm not going to point in a direction and point people to go in a direction that I'm not willing to go myself. One of the first things I say is that because I've been there, I really understand what you're going through. Let me help you. Let me show you a few things to help you. It's why my WordPress site is free. It's why if I got an email tomorrow, on that site, or through message through Facebook or through TikTok, however it comes to me, and people go, "How have you ever worked with, and what do you think?" I have no problems answering and helping people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm all about, like, if there are other chefs out there that want to get involved and work with me, great. Let's start to collab.
Oh, that's awesome.
You want to start putting recipes in there for cooking without kidneys? Cool. I will give you your props for it. Your name will be on that recipe. I'm not going to sit here and go, "This is a cooking without kidneys recipe," and have everyone think, no, that's not how it works.
Yeah. So we had a question from Michelle Rattiff. She wants to know, can the diet help a diabetic keep their kidneys healthy?
So the diet that we're specifically talking about, Michelle, is for people who are already on the machine. So that's more of a high protein kind of deal. If you're really looking as a diabetic to keep your kidneys healthy and safe, obviously they always say cut back carbs, cut back sugars, but also you want to cause as little stress on your kidneys as possible. So you want to go with a lower protein diet, fish or chicken, not beef, pork, or lamb. You want to go with a lot more diverse vegetable array. The things that you cannot eat while you're on the dialysis machine, you could definitely eat prior to. I mean, I extended, my kidneys probably 6 or 7 years because of just through eating. And most importantly, you want to reduce the amount of stress that you have.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, hey, Dave, I got a suggestion for you. We kind of coming down to the wire, but I was just thinking about something pertaining to sponsors, and this may help you. You could go to you can go to Walmart, grocery stores, big chain stores. They have what's called grant giving, where they you just fill out some paperwork and ask how much you're requesting. Like, I don't know if you have a food line up there, Walmart. These are some of the places that I got donations from in the past. I'm not sure if you got a Giant, Shoppers, any large food chain. You just go to their website. You can go to Family Dollar. Just go to a lot of these stores that have large chains and see, do they have corporate giving, gift giving, and then you apply through that and let them know what you're going to use the proceeds for. And then it's just a process if they're going to say yes or no. See, with these community stores, most of the decision making is done by the store manager instead of going to like a pharmaceutical company where it goes through a process with a lot of other applications involved. So it just came to my mind when you talked about food. You can go to maybe a product that you use and ask them if they will sponsor you. Reach out to the main headquarters. Say you may use McCormick pepper or something like that. Maybe reach out to McCormick, or you get the idea, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and that is a definite possibility. But there is a question I do want to answer for Monica.
Sure, please.
So if you're looking to cut down your protein that you're taking in because you're a transplant recipient and your protein levels are too high, you want to look actually more at going more vegetarian. Cutting back on the animal proteins that you're taking in, especially the heavy ones. Any of the red meat ones are considered heavy proteins, and they have a tendency to, if you have too much, your body will force them through your kidneys. Sometimes that's how kidney damage happens. Your protein levels are just too high. So if you're looking to cut them down, actually you want to go back to a diet originally prior to dialysis, where it's a lot more heavier veg, a little bit lighter on the carbs, and the proteins are very light.
Right.
And through the fish and chicken.
I agree with you, Dave, on that, because the thing about it is when you have kidney disease, depending on the stages or any stage, once those diseases the kidneys are diseased, if you're eating a lot of protein, they filter through the kidneys, and proteins are large. And so they want to damage the kidneys filtering through that. So that's exactly why you want to reduce your protein intake prior to dialysis or while you're in those stages. But like you said, and then what happens once you get on dialysis, it flips over where they want you to eat more protein now. And so you can raise your albumin level. I'm sorry, Dave.
At that point, it's like your kidneys are already shot.
Yeah, and that's where they build up they want you to build up your protein level, your albumin, so you can feel better. And that's the thing, Dave. A lot of people, once they get on dialysis in the beginning, they lose their appetite. So any suggestions on what you may do for people who fall in this category that may have a loss of appetite in the very beginning, and it's hard to ingest a meal to boost up the protein levels?
Ooh. A solid protein shake is not a bad thing. You just have to look at their potassium levels, look at the sodium, look at the phosphorus levels. Make sure you're not taking in too much of any of those, and calcium. Plus, whatever, that would be a great way to boost your protein if you're not that hungry and you just want something to drink. And at the end of the day, it really comes down to what you love. I know that when I was on dialysis, I could not taste subtle flavors because all I could taste was iron. And everything had to be, all the flavors had to be either really sharp, really spicy, so I found for me what worked. For me, it was always, all I could taste was iron, but I knew that if I had something that had a lot of chilies in it, a lot of spice to it, Indian, Thai, and those recipes will be coming up at some point. Those really got me through. I was one of the few that did not have that loss of appetite issue.
Okay.
In fact, when they told me my appetite would increase when I got a kidney, I told them I'm in trouble because I was eating 3. They actually asked me to keep a journal for 2 weeks to see what it was that I was eating. And when I showed it to them, they just looked at it. They're just like, "Yeah, your appetite's going to increase." And for the first, I think, 3 or 4 years, it was like every 2 or 3 hours I was hungry.
Wow.
I was ravenous.
Okay. Oh yeah. Jared Brown mentioned that he interviewed many kidney disease patients who said their tastes were affected as well. That's a big problem.
It is, but for some, you'll see in pretty much almost all my recipes, I use Bragg's liquid aminos. I'll use low sodium or no sodium soy. I don't actually use any table salt in anything unless it's just like a little pinch just to pull the flavor of something else. You'll find that a lot of things I'll do will be quite spicy. I'll be doing tacos at some point, and I'll be doing
Wow.
kidney-friendly tacos. We'll be doing the pineapple and roasted pepper salsa, queso fresco, the
See
whole
ya.
nine yards.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's
So, but
awesome.
yeah, dialysis really does affect how you taste what you taste. I always had to have someone else taste my food with me just to make sure that I was on point the entire time I was on dialysis. It was just crazy like that.
Wow.
And the amount of people who actually don't understand how that affects your taste buds, it's insane. I actually had coworkers that look at me, they're like, "Why do you always ask us to taste things?" I'm just like, because I can't taste it myself. Yeah, but the pineapple sounds good, but you know what? Pineapple is actually a safe fruit for someone who's on dialysis. It's a low potassium.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You also get your vitamin C from it and things of that nature. So
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, like I said, we just about come down to time. So I want you to spend the next several minutes getting your message out and what you want people to know watching this broadcast. So I'm going to give you the space to, you know, say your spiel and go from there.
thank you. So have is a nonprofit called Cooking Without Kidneys. We are dedicated to help people who are on dialysis not just survive but thrive through food. One of the toughest things to do when you're on the machine is to be able to eat things that you like and love, such as bolognese. Sometimes you get a craving for tomato bisque, but the whole idea is to be able to create things that can take that place, that will give you the mouth sensation, the smell, the taste, the touch, the feel that you want and that you love. Our goal is to reduce the amount of people who are dying from potassium poisoning and other heart-related issues due to what they eat, as close to zero as we can get, and to really give everyone an opportunity to create and build a diet for themselves. So, with that, thank you all for your time. Thank you, Steve, for having me on. You could look up our recipes at cookingwithoutkidneys.wordpress.com. I have some videos posted there. I have a couple of other podcasts that I've been on there. You could also look up on Facebook, Cooking Without Kidneys, because I have a couple videos that I did there over COVID. And look for the lives. I'll be doing some lives coming up. I'll be doing a live this weekend. First demo is going to be at PhilCon over in Cherry Hill, New Jersey at the Crown Plaza. And I'll be there demoing and giving out samples of the beef bolognese recipe that I made on the show. So,
are you going to be going live on your page on Facebook doing that?
I may go live on. There's so many different platforms I could go live on. I'm thinking I may go live on Facebook. I'll probably bring my tablet and go live. Also on TikTok. Also on High Notes. There's just so many different aspects.
Sure. Wow,
So
man, this has been, huh?
I'll probably do both. I'll probably do TikTok and Facebook for this
one. Okay. Just in case somebody, some people want to watch, but they can go to your page, Cooking Without Kidneys, to just find out what you're doing, what's happening with you, and look at some of your recipes that you may have on there.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Dave, man, hey, I really appreciate you taking the time out tonight to come on Steve the Kidney Nurse to talk about kidney disease and healthy diet, and to share your story with kidney disease and having your program or company, Cooking Without Kidneys, on the Eat This TV network, which is on Roku. And so when, if folks, let me ask you this, when may you start the other show? Sometime in 2022?
Yeah, so what we're looking at is probably like a little sooner than that, probably towards the end of December is when we're going to start recording. And we'll have probably wrap up all 12 episodes by mid-February. So when the station decides to release them is when they release them. And we're just going to take it from there, and we'll make sure that every time we're going to be live, we'll let everybody know.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome, man. All right, Dave. Well, hey, man, thank you again for coming on Steve the Kidney Nurse. And, let me just tell folks, we do plan to bring you back on the 19th to do a holiday cooking demo show. So, guys, be sure to tune into that as well, December the 19th at 8 p.m.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, Dave. Well, again, man, thank you for coming on, and we'll definitely be chatting soon, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you, Steve.
All right, thank you. Take care.
You too. Bye.
All right, bye-bye. So, guys, this has been an awesome show. I want to thank everyone who joined us tonight to watch this incredible show. And please join us December the 19th at 8 p.m. That's on a Sunday. And we're going to do a live cooking demo with none other than Chef Dave Pollack. So until then, guys, we'll see you later. Take care and stay safe. Peace and blessings. I'm out. Let me find my outro. See you guys. Peace.
Warriors around, don't get caught in the mosh pit. Fuel to the fire, ain't nobody can stop it. Trouble in my city, but you know I'm across it. Got a 40 on my hip and I'm liable to spark it. Throw down these hits, my click is indivisible. I aim, you duck, I squeeze, now you invisible. I'm not afraid of getting physical. All these different chemicals are fogging up my visuals. Bloods on my hands, got slugs on my gunners. Yo, we notorious, we ain't no runners. Bloods on my hands, got slugs on my gunners. Yo, we some warriors, they ain't called runners. Bloods on my hands, got slugs on my gunners. Bloods on my hands, got slugs on my gunners. Put on my strap, put on the beat, put on the map, put on my team. Take out every motherfucker in between, know what I mean? Better myself, better my aim, better my rap, better my name. Killing rappers on my hang on, but they change for the fame. Never thought I would, and now I'm running. You don't wanna follow me, I'm up in front of